I am Gianna, the pet engineer. This is a radio talk show dedicated to help people to construct a better connection with their pets. To listen to our show, you can visit us at petengineer.com. Also, check my new book, Numerology for Pets, at amazon.com. Today, I have Karen Schultz, who is the President and Assistant Director of Training for Tender Loving Canines Assistance Dogs Incorporated. They are specialized in training service dogs for those with limited abilities. Some of their programs are for children with autism and for wounded warriors. If you want to know more about their work, visit their website at www.tenderlovingcanines.org. Once again, tenderlovingcanines.org. Karen, can you give us a little history on Tender Loving Canine Assistant Dogs program?
Yes, this program started in 1998 as a small, nonprofit, all-volunteer organization to train service dogs for those individuals who wanted to better their lives and be more independent. So we have trained dogs for mobility, working with a wheelchair or balance, signal dogs, which are people for hard of hearing or deaf, seizure response dogs, as well as specialty dogs, for example, those with Tourette syndrome or a child with cerebral palsy. But we now specialize in training dogs for two main focus programs. One is called Leash on Life, which is dogs for individuals on the autism spectrum, and At Ease, our Wounded Warrior program. We train all puppies. We get them usually around 8 weeks of age, and we train them for approximately 2 years. We do 18 months of foundation training, and after that we can see what job the dog would be good at, and then we interview applicants for this type of dog. We try to match the dog to a client depending on their needs and the dog's skills and strengths. And we match the personality of the dog and the client as well, because we want this placement to be a success. For that reason, we do not have a waiting list. So the next 5 dogs ready to be placed do not necessarily go to the next 5 clients. The last 4 to 6 months, once we match the dog with a client or recipient, is specialized training with that recipient dog team to learn the custom cues for that individual's needs. And lastly, we place the dog at no cost to the clients.
What about your facility teams?
We also train what's called a facility dog in these 2 disciplines mainly now, the autism and the Wounded Warrior program. And they're handled by an individual who works within a facility or a school, for example, a teacher or an occupation or physical therapist. This dog is able to work with and help many individuals. It's not placed with just one person, but it belongs to the handler and goes home with them at night. They own the dog. This dog is not allowed public access as a service dog. For example, the owner wouldn't be taking the dog to a restaurant that night or to the movies and have public access because they're not disabled. Mm-hmm. But if they were working with a student out in public, or a client, a therapist was working for the Wounded Warrior, say, out in public, then that dog does have public access for that job that it's doing that day. This dog affects many more lives. The dog I'm presently training is a 1.5-year-old Labradoodle named Magic.
Oh.
And it's a perfect name for him.
Yeah.
And he'll be working at the Terry Learning Academy, which is a school for 70 students on the autism program. So he'll be affecting all of those students at one time or another. And he will help them learn self-control. They'll be able to model good behavior by watching him. They'll learn to take turns, learn to properly greet others, learn to clean up and put items away. Magic is able to interrupt their bad behavior and direct them to a better choice of behavior. Plus, he's a motivator and a calming tool. He can play all those roles and many more. And they can also learn about feelings such as being sad or tired, since empathy is not something that comes natural to them. And lastly, those are just a few of the benefits that he can do for them, because it's only limited by the creativity of what you want to teach him to do to help those students.
You to tell me about this program with children with autism. It sounds absolutely beautiful. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yes, I can, because we originally started placing dogs for children with autism mainly for safety reasons, for those that eloped, bolted, and ran away. So these children would need to be held on to by their parents at all times when out in public. And the usual result was they did not go out much, or the family became divided, with one parent staying home with the child and the other parent doing all the errands by themselves, for example. But after talking with Temple Grandin, who's a well-known autism advocate who is on our advisory board, we realized that the higher functioning individuals on the autism spectrum are the forgotten ones, who also need assistance with socializing, calming, and handling transitioning from one activity to another. And if they can accomplish these skills, they may be able to be self-supporting and independent in their adult life, which is a wonderful goal. So we now place dogs for individuals throughout the autism spectrum. We don't limit it to just safety. We realize that no two individuals are the same on the autism spectrum. They're all very unique, and the service dog training with them and their family needs to be approached in this way on a totally individual basis.
You know, it's definitely pets helping people here.
Definitely, and it is truly magic when you see it happening.
Oh, I believe you. I believe you. Is there any special stories you would like to share, something that happened that really touched you?
The first autism dog I placed was with a 5-year-old little girl, and that made me want to do more of this and get deeper into it. She was nonverbal, and she eloped or ran off frequently, probably 5 times a day minimum. She would also escape any time the doorbell rang. She would let whoever came to the door in, and she would race out. So we taught her dog to block the door when the doorbell rang, and in public she was actually leashed from a harness or a belt that she wore, which was leashed to the dog's vest, and then she held on to a neoprene handle that we had custom made that was also attached to the dog's vest, and she had to do this in order to move forward with the dog. This was a learned behavior from the start of our training with her. She did not move forward without holding the handle. But holding the handle allowed her to do many new things and go places she'd never been before. And our first outing with her was to Legoland, which was amazing. But when she dropped the handle and took off, the dog immediately laid down, and again, she's leashed to the vest, so she could not run away. So when she was no longer chased by her mother, grabbed and caught, and then had a meltdown with a lengthy recovery time, which they couldn't do anything during that time, or they called it a day, then this behavior stopped. So whatever the payoff was of her having the meltdown, running away, and that, it was no longer there, and this behavior ended up disappearing. The dog didn't need to even be used for this after just a few months of training, but she also began giving verbal one-word cues to the dog. And to watch this be such an empowering moment for her to have a living being follow her cue when she spent her whole life being told what to do by others, it led to her being mainstreamed in public school after 2 years with over a 250-word vocabulary. And remember, she was nonverbal when we first met her. She now goes to baseball games. She goes to concerts, takes full part in the activities of her family, including vacations and long plane rides, and being stuck in the Dallas airport on her first trip with no problems at all when she was with her dog. So she learned to use her dog to calm herself when needed. And there was once again a family unit where she had her own chores even now at home on their horse farm. And again, finally she is able to do this with her dog at her side. She's an active member of her family.
Oh,
so
wow.
This made me want to do more because they are all very individual with individual needs, and you can help them in some way. You just have to sit back and see what that way is and then approach how to train it and do it.
Wow, and those stories make you feel a better person when you listen.
They tear you up a bit as well.
Yeah, oh my God, this is absolutely
wow, no words to express. Anyway, is there any advice you would like to tell the listeners? Anything that you feel that it should be said?
I do, because regarding autism, I want to encourage parents when they're applying for a service dog for their child on the autism spectrum to be patient. We presently have over 100 applicants for an autism dog, and that's just with our organization alone.
Wow.
I would also caution families not to buy an expensive, very young dog. Some are being sold at 3 months of age, advertised as an autism dog, particularly if there is no follow-up training offered for you and the dog together. These dogs are being sold from $3,000 to $20,000 each.
Wow.
And parents of children with autism are an extremely vulnerable group. They're desperate for help, but they must realize also the dog is not a cure. It's a tool to help, but they need to be taught how to use that tool. So working trained service dog is not something you learn in a few days. It takes working with the dog in the venues that you will be in your normal life, whether it's at home with your child or going to school, going to a swim meet, your other child's baseball game. The child needs to be comfortable in those situations, and you need to be comfortable handling the new tools. Otherwise, it's not going to alleviate stress in your family. It's going to only increase it, which would be a very big disservice to have done to this particular family. So I encourage those applying and looking for an autism service dog to seek out a service dog program that is certified by Assistance Dogs International. It's called ADI, and it is the umbrella organization that sets the standard in this industry. And finally, in doing that, we can uphold the high level of training that needs to be maintained for this discipline training of a dog in the autism world. Unfortunately, it's being abused by some, and I hate to see that happening.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for your time and sharing and lesson, especially lessons, big lessons learned here.
To listen to our shows, visit us at www.thepetengineer.com. Oh, don't forget to check my new book at www.numerologyforpets.com.